Marina?
Got it. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, because we managed to gather a group of wonderful people, and welcome everyone to Moldova. Some of them of you came to Moldova already. Rebecca is here. Some of you will come. We are waiting for you. We are really happy that we have people that worked in the field for 30 years, but we still have people that are new in this field. They are all important for us. And we are really happy that to engage all of you from different community, different background, and have the opportunity to see how the community can change. So let me briefly introduce you all the participants of today's event. Today's conference, and we start from local and we'll say hello, Rebecca from Canada, that for now is in Moldova with us. Hello, Rebecca.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be here again. I was last here a couple of years ago.
2018, as I remember. Okay, and as always, a good friend of us, Büke Kuhadar, from Turkey, USA. Hello, Büke.
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you today. And same here. I was there a few years ago, just before the pandemic. I'm really looking forward to celebrating Global Entrepreneurship Week together in person again with you.
Yes, of course. Ethan Webster, USA, Germany, joined us today. Hello, Ethan.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation. Really looking forward to speaking with all of you today.
From across the ocean, USA, Cecilia Wessinger.
Hi, I'm looking forward to my next trip to Moldova and being with all of you, but it's a pleasure to be here today. I'm honored to be included.
Would love to have you. And will join us later a little bit from Canada, Jason Daly. From the local ecosystem, we have Alessia Fortuna from Moldova, Moldova. Good afternoon, Alessia.
Hi, Marina. Nice being here as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you too. Lucia Ușurelu, Roya Trans.
Hello to everybody.
Hello, Lucia.
It's a pleasure to meet everybody. And we can see the advantage of the digitalizing, and we can see the disadvantage to be connected virtually only, but looking forward for the time to meet everybody in real life.
Alena Rotaru, Dream Ups, joined us in this afternoon.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting us to be at this event. This is a very important event for us as an ecosystem, and wish you all good luck. And I'm happy to learn more about what others do.
Another good colleague and friend, thank you very much, Alena. Another very good colleague and friend, Doina Yacishin, Generator Hub. And Jetta Rashchuk, it's one of our success story. I think she will join us. I don't know, Alessia, did she join us? I don't see her.
Not yet. I think it's gonna.
Not yet. She will, because she is.
Doina. She can.
Yeah. Hello, Doina. Pleasure to see you. Can you hear us?
No, I think it's a problem with the connection, but I hope it's going to be okay.
And the last but not the least, Verica Cerpușcă, YEP Moldova, that is working with youth and creative industries. Thank you all for coming. And Alessia, I think you have the floor.
Yes, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to work with you, and we always invite our friends and our colleagues that we really trust on helping us to connect our ecosystem, our national ecosystem with the global ones. And I'm really privileged to have all of you here, and I hope our friends that are a little bit late and they will join us very soon. because they said that they're going to come a little bit later, and we expect them very soon. But thank you so much. I believe in the power of communities. I believe in the power of people. I really believe in friendships across oceans. I have been privileged to know each one of you and to work with all of you and to learn from you a lot of things. And also I would like to discuss how important are the communities to change the entrepreneurial ecosystem, to change the development of the country, to shift to a more innovative mindset. And I would like to, first of all, invite into the discussion some of my colleagues, some of the people that have been with us from the beginning, from the inception of Gen Moldova. Before Gen Moldova was Gen Moldova, it just was a Global Entrepreneurship Week. And I have the privilege to invite Bike Kuhadar and Lucia Ușurelu to start the discussion. Bike, tell us a little bit about why Global Entrepreneurship Week has transformed and became a community that has changed the global entrepreneurial ecosystem, how it contributed to the global entrepreneurial, how it has engaged different communities at the national level, and how do we work together?
For sure. And I think I love this topic. I love the topic of community. It's a subject very dear to my heart. And with this experience of working with close to 200 countries around the world, looking at those entrepreneurship ecosystems, it's really interesting to understand what it takes to build a community and what it takes to help it stick together. And maybe I can start talking a little bit about community and give some examples from Global Entrepreneurship Week. When we say community, I think we do need to differentiate between audience and community. When we say 10 million people participate in Global Entrepreneurship Week, I would initially call those people an audience. The communication with an audience is typically one-to-many, where you have a certain piece of information you're delivering to others. But there may not necessarily be a lot of back and forth communication. A real community, on the other hand, is many to many, just like Olesya mentioned. You have a group of people learning from each other, and there really is that sense of back and forth. And that's when the audience becomes a community. And for us, I think within the past 13, 14 years, we've seen those audiences who have been with us for Global Entrepreneurship Week become a community. And that actually brings me to another important aspect. I believe great communities have this shared language that brings people closer together. Maybe I can give one example, one easy example from Gen. So Gen Moldova and all the Gen's managing director community, we have people around the globe building Gen chapters in over 100 plus countries. And our shared language is that no one gets left behind. We need to provide access and resources and tools for everyone who wants to consider that path of becoming an entrepreneur. And when we have that language, when we talk that same language, everyone interacts in a different way. Maybe Olesya, I don't know how much you want me to speak. I have a lot to say,
yeah.
But if you want to turn this into a conversation.
Yes, I would like to invite Lucia also in the conversation, because Lucia has been with us since the beginning, since 2013, basically. She was one of the main supporters for us at the beginning, when we were just thinking, should we include our Moldovan ecosystem as part of Global Entrepreneurship Week? Is it going to be relevant for Moldova? So why did you support this crazy initiative group that came to us, and you supported us financially at that moment, which was like even took the risk and actually supported with pro-entrance as well. So we're really happy to have you, and you have a lot of background in working with entrepreneurship in the Republic of Moldova with the SME organization, the Ministry of Economy. Tell us, why do you think it is important to connect the communities globally, and how do you think that Moldovan communities can connect, taking our cultural background?
Thank you so much, Olesia, for this initiative, and previously, starting with since 2014, when we start during the one event, we met, and from beginning I say, yes, Olesia, we can support this initiative. Nobody knows for that time how it's going to be, but we started with the small events, starting with the small entrepreneurs to support, and today we are proud that they achieved a certain level, and even some entrepreneurs already are in foreign countries across Moldova, across Europe. We started the initiatives since 2009 from the piloting first business incubator, classic one, with 15 entrepreneurs. Now, today, we are proud to say we are on the 5th stage of the incubation program. Already more than 120 entrepreneurs. We piloting a business incubator, how it works in Moldova. Today, we are proud to say that 11th business incubator created a network of the business incubator. We pass it to the national organization that support SMEs sector, but in the north of the Moldova, we tested how it works. We adjusted this model.
So,
and
Lucia, you're saying that you are risk takers by nature. So you are taking the communities and shaping new ideals for our Moldovan culture and our country, because it was one of the new, it was retested and replicated in different parts of our country as well. Why do we have?
That's right. Another instrument that we are proud to say that we are risk taker, to test how it works, the cluster. After the 5th generation of the incubator program, 10 companies that graduated business incubation program in light industry or in textile businesses decided to create a first cluster as well in the north part of Moldova.
So
today in the morning, we have launched this across partnership with the Lithuanian countries. And we have an event in the first part of the day, 25 companies from Lithuania and Moldova starting to cooperate and to do some businesses together with the Baltic countries and Moldovan countries in textile businesses and apparel sector. This is a small community, how can change the world. Even we are passing through the different challenges, different difficulties, but we are proud that we achieved already businesses that could be internationalized, could be digitalized, and this is the most important things to contribute to the ecosystem, entrepreneurial ecosystem.
So I think one of the important aspects you're mentioning, Lucia, is that it's very important that you have started bottom-up approach. So you took a small city and you started the incubation program there. You replicated it where it was necessary in different parts of the country, and then you have developed the branding of the city through clustering it per specific value chain. It's very interesting, the approach, and I think this practical approach can help many towns of Moldova, like a local level. How large is Soroca, by the way?
It depends how we measure, by habitants or by companies or by what?
Let's start by population, because it's going to give a perspective.
let's say that it's a fourth city in Moldova. After the Chisinau, Belz, Yedinets, Soroka, it's a fourth city. And of course, it's apparel specialized in the apparel sector, furniture and shoes manufacturers.
So
Of
we can
course,
say-
training sector as well. Agriculture, it's by default, and understand that we are agrarian country, and too many initiatives with the agriculture startups and the big companies.
So
But
to give a
definitely-
perspective, to give a perspective for our colleagues that are international, Soroka is approximately like 30,000 people, inhabitants. So it's not a big city. It's just a town but it's how large our towns are, our cities are. So that's a little bit of perspective, and I really welcome this approach, and I really know that it's very needed, because being an agrarian country, we can shift and make it more technological and make investment more attractive to different fields and to different sectors where we have a critical mass of entrepreneurs in that specific sector, because we know that, and we will discuss that a little bit, that to attract investment, you also have to have a critical mass so they can cope with the production demands and so on. But that's a discussion for later. Thank you so much. And I think we have, at least I have derived some of the conclusions. And if we want to discuss a bit more about how important the communities, I would like to invite all the people that are here into the discussion, so we can kind of present ourselves and do and think of how we can change the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Moldova, how we can help develop it through our communities. So I would like to invite, I would like you to share your perspective. How can we change our communities through different actions that we run in Moldova? Doina, what do you think about that?
I just want to check if you can hear me right now.
Yes, we can.
Yes. Oh, that's great, because I have some problem with connection. It's a good thing to thought about what can we do. I think we do a lot of things right now, like, Dream Apps, Generator Hub, Gen Moldova. If we also speak about Art Core and GEW, we have a lot of projects. I think maybe what is needed to make some collaboration, because some of our projects are just some steps of how we can build this ecosystem and how we can develop this ecosystem. So I think we need just to have a little bit more of team working with all of our actors in the startup ecosystem.
What does Generator do, and what do you do in your community? What target audiences are you working with, Doina?
The last 2 years, we work a lot with women on women entrepreneurship, and we try to help girls, women from Moldova to start their own business. Also, we work a lot on side of social entrepreneurship and green entrepreneurship. We have launched with the Mega a project, which is a pre-acceleration program for green and social entrepreneurship. And this year was the 3rd year we have this project, and we are happy with the results that we have, and to see that the number of people who think about to create a social startup here in Moldova. So we can see that the number of social entrepreneurs are rising, and that's also great. And pretty well, these are the projects that we are now working on.
Thank you so much, Dana. And Alona, what do you think about our communities of change? How can we shift things in Moldova? What do you do exactly to help?
Hi. First of all, I think to change something, we have to work together. It's not me and Doina or you or each of us that can change something such big as to transform an ecosystem. And it's great that we share experiences and that we join each other's programs and we share our lesson learned. And so we have to collaborate and to work together and to popularize entrepreneurship and innovation together. This is the answer to your first question. And second is what we do at DreamUps. DreamUps is an accelerator of innovation and entrepreneurship. And we work in Moldova since 2016, building a community of technological entrepreneurs, startups. And we do a lot of programs, starting from popularizing through media, startup media outlet, through our networking events like Startup Grind, which is a global event, like developing our own conference where we want to connect and to match founders, but also investors. Through our educational program, starting from school, and our acceleration program, Idea Stage Accelerator, and also through support in early stage investments, because in Moldova it's not very popular to gain funds if you have just an idea or just a team an idea. So this is what we work on right now.
And I would like to see what our colleagues do, so maybe we can learn something from what they do, and to understand better who do we have here and what do they do in their fields of expertise. And for that reason, I would like to invite Cecilia. What do you do, and how can we collaborate with you?
Thank you very much for inviting me. First off, I'm always learning from all of these communities and in all the things that you do. So just a little bit about me and how probably not the journey that you think most people do, but probably resonates with a lot of people here on the call. I was a middle manager in the travel industry for over 20 years, right? And so I thought that was my career path. But then along the way, I dove headfirst into entrepreneurship because I got fired. And, you know, sometimes we become entrepreneurs from need, because I needed a job and I couldn't figure out what to do. So I thought, well, I might as well be my own boss. The interesting statistic is that most people think that that entrepreneurs look like Mark Zuckerberg or a young Bill Gates, but the average, if you look at Kauffman statistics along the way, and we'll talk about the Kauffman Foundation in a minute, the average age of entrepreneurship is about 45. So I was 50 when I dove headfirst into entrepreneurship. I got involved in 1 Million Cups, which is an initiative that the Kauffman Foundation had started. They're the leading foundation on entrepreneurial research across the world. And you have that version globally with Jen, with startup, the startup huddles, right? So, so I love that it's extended globally. You use the thing that works. Along the way in my entrepreneurial journey, and I was struggling and I didn't ever launch, but I started to get very involved in the community. And in 2017, this foundation invited me to the inaugural eShip Summit. I had no idea what an eShip was.
Oh, I'm so privileged. I have been. Thank you.
Well, and eShip is actually what they call entrepreneurship. I think we get very lazy, and entrepreneurship is a very hard word to write. So that's eShip. And then it was a convening of ecosystem builders. And we use the term a lot in 2021, but we didn't use the term very much in 2017. So I didn't know what ecosystem building was. And they said, oh, people like you who connect people who need resources with the resources. And I thought, you mean the stuff I do for free? That's a thing? And they said, yes. And we believe you're an early adopter and we'd like to invite you into this conversation. And so together with 450 invited people from 47 states and 10 countries, we got together to talk about ecosystem building, which is a word that we use all the time. And through the work there and eventually becoming a consultant with the Kauffman Foundation, I got to help facilitate putting together a playbook. And now we have words.
We will
and
talk
ideas.
about that. Yeah, we will talk about the playbook.
Okay.
Yes, let's not step into the playbook
Okay.
because I think we have a lot of discussion about the playbook and the Pledge of Interdependence. And there's so much I have learned also in the eShip Summit as well. And I would love to continue the discussion, but I would like first for all of us to get in proper introduction about the work they do, where they work, and then we can, Ethan, tell us what the Startup Genome does.
Certainly, I'd be happy to. Yeah, I think I'm going to be repeating a lot of points that Cecilia just mentioned, just because we at Startup Genome are the world's leading policy advisory and research firm when it comes to startup ecosystem development. So this is really what we are taking care of day in and day out. Personally, I am the innovation policy specialist here at Startup Genome. Originally from the US, I caught the entrepreneurship bug in 2015 when my best friend founded a startup, and I found a way to combine that with my master's degree in international affairs to arrive in the position I am now, which is advising cities, governments, international organizations on how to better give startups a chance at success. So ultimately, what we do is we look at a data-driven model to analyze a startup ecosystem based on certain success factors, compare that ecosystem to peers across the globe. Just because we have the largest global data set of its kind, we have over 12,000 founders who have responded to our survey. That allows us to compare a country like Moldova not to London or to Singapore, but rather to peers to understand, okay, to a like ecosystem, how does your funding situation stand up? Where are your strengths within your development phase? And where are the gaps for you to prioritize your limited time and resources to really unlock that next stage of growth and continue on the pathway towards a vibrant startup community. So in a nutshell, that's what we do. I'm looking forward to sharing a bit more details about what we see and the insights that we can share.
Thank you. And we have here Rebecca Palmer. Rebecca, please.
Hello, and thank you once again for inviting me back. It's always lovely to work with Gen Moldova and the amazing ecosystem partners we have across the world. With EntreLaunch, I'm based in Canada, but I work with youth across the world providing an online training program. And I also work with one of our local incubators providing entrepreneurial learning and mentorship because we believe it's something that we need in the community. So that is something that I work on. One of the other focuses I work on is entrepreneurial mental health, and it's a part of our program. As entrepreneurs, we often get overwhelmed and let ourselves get stressed. So learning how to integrate work and life early on as an entrepreneur is very important to the success of all our entrepreneurial projects.
Thank you, Rebecca. And I'd like to introduce Verica Cergushka, who joined us from ArtCore, but she also represents what is called GEW, and she works very closely with us. And she was one of among our first members of Global Entrepreneurship Network. Verica, welcome. Please
Hi, good
tell us
evening.
what you do and what does your communities, because you are part of several communities of change, do programmatically and also like target-wise.
Well, we have some experience in working with young people and with students. I have personally experience in working with entrepreneurs, with SMEs, and what we understood that we have the lack of education in understanding the basics on how enterprises should work, how businesses grow. We sometimes don't understand how we have to scale. So we decided to start working on different level. So working with pupils in the schools and educating them and just promoting and inspiring them, explaining that entrepreneurship might be a career for them. Also working with students in universities and also explaining that there is entrepreneurship, there are startups, and what we consider is very important is to show them that now in general on the market, the abilities, the knowledges are changing, and we have to learn continuously. So this is what basically we do. Also, we have some programs for startups, pre-acceleration programs, and it is also developed on different levels. And of course, this is on the one side for startups, for entrepreneurial education that we do with YET. On another part, we also work with creative communities, with artists, with entrepreneurs, with businesses and startups in this field. And what we are trying to do is to motivate people to develop products, to go outside of Moldova. And so basically what we want to do is to promote Moldova's creative nation, and those to combine everything. It's all the abilities that we lack, to entrepreneurial thinking, critical thinking, and the initiative to develop products that might be interesting in general in the world, not only in Moldova. Thank you.
Yes, and I would like to ask Jetta, who was and who is an entrepreneur that scaled up from Moldova, and what does she believe? What can communities change in their approaching towards the entrepreneurs and startups, and what services are needed and for our Moldovan entrepreneurs so they can grow globally?
Okay, I unmuted myself. Nice to see everyone. I just arrived at the office, so I'm a bit off my bike. Yeah, as for communities and their support for startups, I guess without community support, it's pretty easy to lose focus and motivation. So I think it's a two-way game, because both communities have their benefits in seeing startups happen, and then the startups will not really thrive much without the communities around. And in terms of instruments or whatever actions can be taken, well, that's a pretty broad range.
What would have helped you? Let's put it that way, just the simple way. What would have helped you like 6 years ago?
6 years ago, well, a bit more funding would have been nice, because my startup has struggled for a very long time with no funding, or almost no funding, which was, well, I'm a good bootstrapper, I guess. In Moldova, we have the resilience for that. though it's pretty hard. It's really hard effort. So yeah, early stage funding would have been very useful. But just as well, I got a lot of options to participate in international events and interact with broader global communities, and that always gave me more inspiration to keep going. And I think in the first years, it's really valuable to have that on top of the funding. But we did benefit from a bunch of vouchers that were targeting innovation, so that helped. But yeah, also the community support is huge. So just cheerleading is great.
Yeah, okay.
On top of funding, on top of funding.
Yeah, I think it's important that we had Novi. I hope I didn't miss anyone in the discussion. I would like to also invite Lucia and also draw some conclusions and Vike about the communities. What do we think about these different activities, and what do you think how we can integrate our efforts together? What would be your first tip, first advice? Lucia, are you here with us? Maybe Vike? Okay. Vike, what do you think? How can we integrate all of these efforts together and coordinate so we can run activities together and can do? What would be the first tip, the first advice you gave to us?
This is a really good question. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So I think the first step is already complete. So you have all of these stakeholders who are putting themselves out here, who are talking about what they need, and who are talking about also what they're doing, what they can offer, how they can provide support, right? And I think the next step is about probably putting together a strategy around what you want to achieve within the next few years. And by doing that, of course, you kind of narrow the path a little bit, right? Because with such a great group of people, you have so many amazing things you can do together, you're already doing. But then when it comes to focus, what can you achieve with this group the best together in the shortest amount of time to really put Moldova in that global game of entrepreneurship? So that would be, what I would do. And I know there is already work around this among this group. And of course, coming up with the strategy is almost never enough. You would need to look into how to implement, getting the right resources to make it work. And of course, just because we're all entrepreneurial, finding a way to pivot when things don't work out, and of course, move to another direction if it needs to be that way.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it's a very interesting topic because for me, it's always about it's when you start something, you have these big visions, you have this huge visions of how the world can be changed by all of us, and then conflict arises, and then the management of the conflict arises, and that's the proper coordination and the proper piloting of different programs and the co-working, like hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder, how we say it, and basically understanding what are the dynamics of working with these wonderful people in this national stage, and also connecting to global programs, because there is a different dynamic out there as well, and similar in so many ways. And of course, we want our policies to change in the beginning, and we want to start from that. And sometimes, as we have seen many experiences from Startup Chile, from other programs that have started in Ukraine, they've started as communities that were dedicated and committed to change. So to develop this discussion, let's talk about this program that were mentioned those policies and programs that were focused on the national levels, but also on the communities level across different countries. And I know that I asked Ethan about the innovation policies, about the startup policies that were identified in your research. And I would like you to share that. And I'd like to invite everyone to the next discussion about the policies and programs and the different global initiatives that are done together. And Ethan, could you share with us the startup genome experiences and the policies with regard to what has been done globally, especially now with the challenges that COVID put us in front of?
Certainly. Yeah, so again, the startup genome difference, I would say, is our ability to tap into global knowledge on cutting edge innovation policy and what's being done right now and what has been done, particularly in the last year and a half as everybody faced a very uncertain time during the COVID pandemic. Early on, we were focusing on what the effect would be on startup ecosystems globally. And so in April of 2020, we sent out a blast to our own global membership of innovation agencies, ministries, and various other economic development organizations that have the mandate for startup ecosystem development, and asked them, what are your governments doing? What steps are being taken by, whether it's VCs, whether it's public organizations, to mitigate the effects of COVID-19 and to basically weather the storm that we saw. And I'd like to say big picture. Firstly, there was a massive concern in the first few months that there would be a great die-off of startups and that demand would sizzle out as economic recession hit the world. And ultimately, these concerns were not valid. In fact, in our global startup ecosystem report that we publish yearly, this year published in September, we tracked a $1 trillion increase in global startup ecosystem valuation. So rather than being squashed by the pandemic, startups and startup growth globally was supercharged as digitalization and digital solutions were the glue that brought us all through this challenging time together. So when it comes to the specific policies that were taken in order to help startups get through this time, it really comes down to a handful of factors. Quite simply, it's about demand, it's about supply, and it's about making sure that the short-term challenges do not become long-term deadweight loss. So some of the biggest changes I think that we saw were governments basically giving a bit of breathing room to startups. This came in the form of, for example, in Germany, there's a system called Kurzarbeit, which is basically a system of furlough that we would call it in the US, where if an employer couldn't pay its staff, the government would come in and say, okay, if you don't lay off these employees, but instead just cut their hours, or even say, we're putting you on temporary leave, then the government will come in and fund a certain portion of their salary. I think it was up to 60% of their salary. And basically what this allowed German startups and German companies to do was keep staff on payroll instead of firing them to save budget at the short term, which basically, it takes a lot more effort to scale a startup than to create, it takes a lot more effort to start a new startup than it does to scale an existing one. So really, if you have solutions that are coming in and keeping alive the startups that are already existing instead of trying to start over from step one. This allows you to, instead of get hit hard by the pandemic, you can build upon what already has happened. Another way that we saw governments respond to this was by creating demand themselves. So a government has the ability to mobilize large budgets that the private sector does not necessarily have. So a lot of governments were coming up with new ways of procurement to induce demand from the startup sector, particularly when it came to finding solutions for lockdown. One of the ones that I thought was quite interesting was in France. The French government relied heavily on the French unicorn Doctolib, which is a startup that has a platform that connects patients with doctors. So you can go online and schedule your appointment pretty simply. And so the French government's response to the vaccination drive was to ask Doctolib to create a whole new system for people to schedule appointments for vaccination through their platform. And I believe that to date, over 35 million vaccination appointments in France were scheduled via Doctolib. And ultimately, this is a great way, both in the larger sense, like the example that I just gave, but even on smaller ones, for governments to come in and to create demand in times of economic hardship. However, this is the sort of advice that we would have given regardless of the pandemic, is of course, particularly when you're speaking about an early stage ecosystem, when you have young startups that are trying to find their USP, where they're trying to bring a product to market. The government can play a role in being their first customer and to mobilize the network that they have, particularly in a country where a large degree of economic activity is coming from the public sector.
Yeah, thank you, Ethan. It's very interesting to hear about these examples, and I'd like Cecilia to invite and to join us our conversation here and share her perspective and what she has seen so far through eShip. At least we had the eShip while being in COVID in 2020. I was there, thank you, Kaufman Foundation, because it was a really interesting discussion. We're very well done. Please tell me about the different initiatives that were run for the eShip, and also beyond that with Kaufman Foundation, beyond that at national policy level, because I think that's where we can actually contribute and include more people into the discussion, either at city level or at federal level or at state level in the US in this case.
Because you have to do it at all those levels, right? You can't just do it at one level and then hope it bleeds over to something else. So, alongside convening people during the eShip community summits from 2017 to 2020, one of the things that we started to identify excuse me, were what we call national resource providers. So regional and national organizations that work on entrepreneurship, entrepreneur support organizations, what we call ESOs, and lots of different entities, and understanding that each one has a different audience. So one of the initiatives that rolled out in the Kaufman Foundation was something called America's New Business Plan. And it was something that was approached during the time that there was a big initiative to bring Amazon to communities. So everybody was bidding on Amazon HQ2, where would the next Amazon location be? And over 200 communities went to attract a company like Amazon, right? Or specifically Amazon. And the foundation recognized that, you know, companies like Amazon are wonderful for the amount of substance that they bring, but net new jobs are created by entrepreneurs, right? 1 to 5 year businesses. And so if you're increasing net new jobs in supporting your company and becoming job creators, not job displacers like Amazon would be, they would need to support them. So America's New Business Plan was bipartisan, which means that it doesn't matter which political party you're a part of. State, local, and federal level legislation initiatives that were suggested, that here are some small ways. When Victor Huang, the former vice president of entrepreneurship, left the Kauffman Foundation, he started a movement called Right to Start. And I'm honored to be part of the ambassador team for Right to Start, which is also more of an advocacy grassroots movement. So it's people like me in states that we live in and cities, and reaching out to our local policymakers. And this is about just, it's hard to think outside of your own space, right? So making suggestions. It's not about finding new money, but it's about allocating existing money to entrepreneurs. So currently, we have 6 states that have proposed some sort of right to start legislation, things about non-compete clauses and how do we fund better, and all of those policy initiatives, just little things and big things that state, local, and federal policymakers can do. And in fact, this afternoon, we have a call set up with my state senator. So I had introduced her to some entrepreneurs, and that's how things happen, right? You go and contact your local policymakers, and you suggest things, and you invite them into conversations, and that's how we start. As far as what Ethan was talking about the pandemic, I belong to a national peer organization in the United States of ecosystem builders called Startup Champions Network. We are a professional association of ecosystem builders. And we had our last in-person convening in San Antonio right before, in March of 2020, when everything was getting ready to shut down. One of the things that we realized is, well, we're about to all be locked in, and we have to be able to communicate best practices to each other. And we realized that there are other partners that we had in BIA, the International Business Incubator Association, or Forward Cities, this initiative that does diverse entrepreneurship. Like, all of us had different audiences, but what we needed to do, and we think of ecosystems as a very nodal mapping. So it's here and there and interconnectedness. But we also knew that information like the things that we were doing for COVID response needed to be centralized, right? It needed to be in a place where we could share best practices. So we actually started a Facebook page called Ecosystems Unite. And we shared, here's what we're doing in our community. And then people could take that idea and introduce it into their community, or link and leverage with each other, right? So one of the simplest things, but necessary things, were people who were running co-working spaces. And they had to send out notification to all of their members to say, hey, we're no longer meeting in person. If you come in, these are the protocols that we have, things like that. But you had to think about it for each of your own organizations. Well, here we had a template. So you could take somebody else's template, and you don't have to recreate the thing over and over again, right? You could borrow an idea that was shared with you graciously, and then say, I like this. I'm going to take parts of that works for me, and then utilize it for your own space. So we came together collectively as a community to share information. So information should be hub and spoke, right? People can get it. It's centralized. Ecosystems should be nodal. It's dispersed. It's the interconnectedness of the community. So that's some of the things that we've done.
Yes, I was very privileged to be part of the eShip and Summit, and privileged to actually learn from those ecosystems. And that's why we have developed, and I've been following, I read the playbook. We have translated the Romanian version of the playbook, the ecosystem playbook. And thank you so much. And what we have done so far, we used gracefully Victor Wong's book and Rainforest, and also Daniel Eisenberg's as manuals for how we can shift and how we can develop something that is relevant for our smaller cities, that we are working for the local bond as well. So this is like very important that you have mentioned that sharing these experiences, sharing from peers to peers, creating this peer network and collaborating. I've seen this in action in the ASHIP Summit, and really, for me, this should be the foundation of what can we create together as Moldovan facilitators, as Moldovan ecosystem stakeholders, that we could develop together and we could play and co-work together, integrating our efforts rather than competing with each other. And I think it's very important. I would like to invite you, Cecilia, to collaborate and mentor us more in further discussion. And I hope our community agrees on that, because honestly, we have so much learning to get done. And I think if we go and approach it from bottom up, and we can go and work directly into smaller communities, we can have this shift much faster and collaborate much better together.
So can I share a couple of frameworks? So the eShip playbook, the eShip goals are a framework, right? And the thing that we think about as far as ecosystem is, we're ecosystem builders are the messy middle between the top down, right? The power structure, the grass tops, and the bottom up, the grassroots. So this whole messy middle is happening. And what we've realized is, if you don't support it with some kind of structure, and that structure for us were these eShip goals, right? They were things that pillars, like the UN Sustainable Goals, right? You have these pillars. And if you can identify the pillars, then all of the energy starts to build together. If you don't, then that messy middle starts to disrupt and become more shallow and messy and dispersed. So what we want to do is include all that energy. And then Andy Stoll, the senior program manager I used to work with at the foundation, he's adopted a new phrase. I don't know where he learned it, but I'm sharing it on. So it's a matter of sharing. We think about ecosystem building as a movement, like a highway, right? It's not about being all things to all people, so that you don't have to go driving across all the lanes of the highway, but we're all headed in one direction and we each have our own lane. So Startup Genome does a wonderful job of bringing up the data globally and letting us identify what we're actually really good at, right? You don't have to be a community that's good at 3,000 things. You could be a community that's really good at one or two things and do it really well, and identify who your collaborators are, who's in the next lane next to you, who are also going in the same direction. So we're driving down the same highway, we're just in our different lanes.
It's very important that you have mentioned, and one of the particular things that I actually noticed about the playbook is that it does not have the first thing, the vision. It has the third thing, because I think ownership of the vision, of togetherness in building that vision for that highway, can create also this commitment, because all of us do different things in our smaller communities, in our communities of change, but developing that, like the interconnected vision for a collective of several communities will help build commitment from all of us. And we actually took a replica of your pledge of interdependence to study and to see what is important to us and what would be the aspects that we have to think about that. And so we are learning from you, and we hope that we can learn more. And also I'm really thankful for the Kaufman Foundation for the programs that they run and access to those programs. So I mean, in terms of we have continuous education, how to talk to mass media, how to talk to policymakers. And it's really important because it creates that support program and that reminder of You are here. What are you doing for your communities of entrepreneurs? What is your value that you are creating? And who do you work with that can help you leverage and can help you grow those efforts? And together we can actually, for us, it's still, we are working on how to co-work, to collaborate together. And I'm hoping that some of my colleagues could share their opinions about what do they think about this type of experiences and how this pledge of interdependence, because you read it, was it something useful? Should we develop something like that for our Moldovan ecosystem? I can see, Alona, maybe you could share your opinion.
Yes, I read it a long time ago, but I remember that I totally have seen it like a very organic document that could help organizations which support entrepreneurs to work together through sharing experiences and through working on a common agenda and building a strategy that can be developed together. So this is what I remember from those. And yes, now having Cecilia explaining one more time the importance of this co-sharing and co-working in our efforts. That's very inspiring, and I'm glad to be here and to listen to her.
I think it's Cecilia, thank you so much. And I would like to see if Lucia can join us in this discussion, because she was at the meeting that we had. That I really hope she can participate and also tell us about her insights when she read the interdependence and for our discussions.
So if we can talk about our community or connections to the pandemic situation, some of them are very hard to survive. But definitely a lot of companies manage to fit to the niche with the suits for the medical staff. With the mask, they started with the masks. They started with the costumes for the medical staff, and they cover the lines for our country even more to go to other foreign countries who are in need with this medical staff through the pandemic situation. I think this is a great that they managed to fit with the needs of the market and to be a part of the international ecosystem, not only with our community. Of course, they're trying to communicate with the public authorities. They try to be connected with the potential investors, but due to this too many challenges to come and to see how it works or how to fit with the needs of the market and the offers, this is the main issue that we can help our entrepreneurship to be connected with the investment ecosystem. I think the best practices that we can learn from your cases to share with our community, this is the main things even I learned today through the B2B meetings, that our community make connections between us and after that with the foreigners. This is the main achievement for this pandemic lesson learned.
Yes, thank you so much, Lucia. Thank you, Cecilia. Thank you, Alona, for your opinions. If anyone wants to share about their opinions, I think, Doina, you were also included in the discussion as well. And thank you for the resources that are available. Cecilia, I would like to invite you on a discussion, like closer discussion, so we can actually collaborate more on ecosystem building through the startup through your organization, I don't want to name it incorrectly, Startup Champions. Yes, and I really hope that you can help us and mentor us in ecosystem building and in being facilitators for the ecosystem, because all of us contribute and all of us can support the build up of the ecosystem. We can't do it separately, and there is not a hierarchy. And I think we would like to learn from you. And we would like to learn from Startup Genome, from collection of data and integration of that data, so we can take evidence-based policies that resulted very effective for different backgrounds. Thank you so much, and let's continue the discussion. Thank you, Cecilia. Thank you, Lucia. And let's continue the discussion from the where we start our companies and how we start our companies and working with the youth. And for that reason, I would like to invite my colleague, Rebecca Palmer, who is going to moderate this session, and she's going to invite the following speakers: Alona, Viorica, Cerbushka, and Doina, and helping us understand how do they work at the local level. Rebecca, here we go. I'm going to give you the spotlight.
Wonderful. So once again, I'm so happy to be here with all of you, and welcome to this session on the inclusion of youth. Doina, Leona, and Viorica, I'm very, very excited to have you on this panel. And I'd like to ask you two main questions. And I'll tell you them now just so you can think about them. The first one, I would like to know a little bit more about the programs each of you offer under your individual organizations for youth. And then after we do a little bit of a roundtable going around introducing those, we will talk about how those programs are engaging youth. Doina, would you like to start and tell me a little bit about Generator Hub?
Yeah, of course. As I previously said, okay, Generator Hub started in 2015, and through these years we changed a lot what we do and what is our public. So if we started at a co-working space and we were more oriented on the IT sector, the last 3 years we are more working with women on women entrepreneurship, and also we work a lot with social and green entrepreneurship. So our main projects are Startup and Women, which is behind the event that we held, also a lot of events and other workshops who are dedicated to the women and who want to start their entrepreneurship journey. And we also have a project which is organized with the Moldovan Green Association, MEGA, and its name is Green Tech Rangers. It's a pre-acceleration program for social and green entrepreneurship. We held also a lot of workshops, inspirational meetups on a topic like climate change, green entrepreneurship, and how we can help our environment to be good and just to have the opportunity to live on the earth in good condition, and not to make a big footprint, if you can say like that. And also we have Climate Launchpad, which is Climate Launchpad Moldova, which is part of the one of the biggest competition on green startup. at the international level, something like that, the program that we have. About how we work with our community.
Okay, and we'll move on to Eliona and then come back to discuss a little bit more.
Of course.
In the interest of time, of course, I am a stickler for time, so I will try and keep us moving along. Thank you, Doina. Eliona, tell me a little bit about DreamUps.
Yeah, may I share my screen for
Of course, I think that's okay.
Okay.
Yes, it's welcome. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's for multiple sharing.
It's set up to allow sharing?
I'm ready. So all I want to share is one slide where we have all our programs. I hope you see. So this scam is everything we do at DreamUps since 2016, programs that have grown in much better programs with time, others that are very new, where we still learn how to do them right. And first of all, we have a factory, which is a software which hosts all our programs, learning programs and acceleration programs, which made it possible to connect not only physically in one classroom, but also to connect internationally, digitally, people, experts, best experts from all over the world, and also from everywhere in Moldova, with youth that wants to learn how to build a startup, where they have an idea, and we have programs to support them. So this is our soft. Also, we have a platform of masterclasses in depth on a narrow subject related to entrepreneurship. Masterclasses, pre-recorded courses with experts from Republic of Moldova and diaspora. We want to localize through these masterclasses the best knowledge that exists in the world, but taught by locals, for locals, in Romanian and Russian, which are our languages we speak in our country. And also we have a startup school, which is our program for pupils in school. We have our third edition this year with 250 pupils registered in this school. And this is the first time when we did this program both in Romanian and Russian, which is also challenging because before we developed programs in English and Romanian only. So we're proud to be more inclusive now. And we have Accelerator, which is our idea stage accelerator, where youth can join and develop their product even if they have nothing, or even don't have a team. We teach them everything in 4 months. Also, we have Catalyst, which is a hackathon. We call it Catalyst because we believe hackathons are an instrument which allows us to, in a very fast way, to connect people who have the same interest and who want to solve a problem. And this way we accelerate and catalyze creation of new teams and development of solutions, innovative solutions. We have also Mosaic, which is our investment syndicate through which we support our alumni from our programs with a minimum of $10,000 once a year, but we have experience with much more money invested. And we have networking events like Startup Grind, which is a global community of entrepreneurs, and DreamCon, which is a conference for startups. And also we have our media platform Blueprint, where we write and also have podcast actually. And yes, this is everything I wanted to show you.
Wonderful. Viorica, would you like to tell us a little bit about your programs?
Yes, so we have, as I said before, we have activities for young people, for pupils from schools, from universities, for students, for early stage startups. Also, we understood how important it is to share experience, to share knowledge, and we have our own media. We also try to educate people through our podcasts and to explain them how not to be afraid of fuck ups. And we launched during spring, we launched the podcast Startup Fuck Ups, and we had very successful people that were sharing their experience and explaining that you do not have to be scared of fails. Pre-acceleration programs, educational programs, we started also on a series of events that we call them Epic Fail. And it's something like a crash test, startup crash test, where people come. They just present their ideas, and after that they get feedback from mentors and founders. And also very important, what we understood, that we don't have a very close community of mentors. So we are the local partners of Garage 48. We organize with them hackathons and also mentors masterclasses. On one side, we want to have teachers from universities, from schools, and make them understand better that you don't have to be just a teacher, you have to be also a mentor. We are trying to improve these skills, and on the other side we try to make a community and the networking of mentors in order to because our ecosystem is very close and we meet with each other, so we have to be better day by day. And what I want to mention, that it wasn't a question, but you didn't ask me, but I just want to say that during this campaign, Global Entrepreneurship Week, we launched a program for pupils in school. We called it Startup 101. And we had more than 1,000 pupils that applied for our program. And more than 800 participated at our program. So we had 5 days of trainings with 11 mentors. And they attended all these trainings. And the community was so energetic. They are so we had, I think, 1,000 of questions per hour. They are very really, how to say, really interested in entrepreneurship. They want to learn more, to have the networking bigger. And this program, I'd like to say that it is a real success. And also we launched because I have the experience of organizing the DEC Idea Challenge. We were inspired of this challenge, and we named it Yep Idea Challenge. And now we have almost, I think, 60 or 70 ideas that children applied, and we are in process of analyzing them, evaluating, and the best one will get some prizes. So it's important to, I think it's important to connect people, to make them understand that entrepreneurship is important for them, for their life. And it's important to make all the people with different ages, with different professions, to understand that entrepreneurial thinking is very important in general in our behavior.
Wonderful. I would like to ask one more question before we finish, but first, I would like to hear what Gen Moldova is working on for youth this November. Marina.
Yes, thank you, Rebecca, and thank you, girls. Verica is a partner for youth mobilization from 2015-14, as I remember correctly. And Alona is also helping us this year for youth mobilization, and they will have, starting tomorrow, a program with the youth and the education. And this year we have also, I think, the favorite campaign for the kids, for the youth from Chisinau, and not only from Chisinau, because the girls from the General Directorate of Education, Youth, Sport and Culture from Chisinau wrote to us that the kids actually are waiting for this program, and they are waiting to see what we will bring new. And each year, at least I think last year even, it was pandemic year, we had 20,000 youth participating in our campaign in Chisinau. And this year, with the youth mobilization, we have a competition for youth.
Marina, not only in Chisinau, also in other regions. Yes.
Thank you, Alessia.
Our partners.
I think you have to add yourself to our conversation, because I will ask you to talk about another event. This will have a competition for the youth, not only from Chisinau, but also from the whole Moldova, because we involve the people, the partners from local bond project, the region from Cimișlia, Drochia, Ștefan Vodă, Ungheni, and Chisinau, and also the other regions that want to participate. The young people to register a video about the entrepreneurs, the success story of our countries, as I remember correctly, and to send us to genmoldova@gmail.com till 30th of November. But also they can, and this is a part that I saw in many schools here in Moldova, and Chisinau likes it, because they send us some amazing pictures and videos from their events. And to organize an event or many events in your school on entrepreneurship topic, but also I know that on 26th of November, Academy of Economic Studies will have an event. So, but I'll let Alessia to say more about it.
Yes, as part of I also serve as a lecturer at the Academy of Economic Studies as part of our Global Entrepreneurship Week campaign, and the campaign that we run monthly together with all of the stakeholders and with the Academy of Economic Studies. We have a research activity, young researchers in innovation, entrepreneurship, and trade. It's on the 26th of November, so everybody's invited. Also, please do not forget, if you have a kid that is between 6 and 35, make him join the campaign, Global Entrepreneurship, the Youth Engagement Campaign. Ask him to participate in the campaign, the video competition, with defining who are the entrepreneurs that are heroes of our national ecosystem. Help us outline, help us highlight them and find them in this national competition.
Yes, and on Thursday we have an workshop also for the youth from 14 to 18 years, and it will be held by Rebecca, our wonderful Rebecca, and Sylvia Solonar, that is a Moldovan entrepreneur that is developing her business in USA. So it will be interesting. Rebecca, can you provide more information about what people you wanted to ask me, and I'm asking you?
Yes. So on Thursday, I'm really excited to be back working with the youth of Moldova. And Sylvia and I will be going over the ideation process, as well as developing your entrepreneurial mindset, and why it's so important to you, whether you're going to be an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur working for another company. So that is the basic summary of what we'll be working on. And it is going to be a very enlightening session that's going to get all of our youth minds engaged. So right before we move on to the next segment, or I guess the last segment, except for the conclusion, I do have a really quick question for everyone in 5 words or less. So very, very quick. What is the top thing you want youth to learn or take away from your programs? Eliona, let's start with you since you're to my right.
Okay, I've learned today that's important: focus and motivation and early stage funding. And this is what we support. That's nice, I hope.
Perfect. Viorica.
About YEP?
In 5 words or less, what would you like the youth to learn from your programs?
Critical thinking, creative thinking, thinking out of the box, to work and to keep learning.
Perfect. And Doina? Doina?
Just not to repeat that my colleagues said, I think determination, because motivation is good, but sometimes you need to be not just motivated. And also I think just it's hard to find the right words in English.
So Romanian is fine.
I think also inspiration. Yes, inspiration, it will be.
Wonderful.
Because it's what we need also. And to be inspired not because sometimes if I speak about social entrepreneurship and some startups that are focused on climate change, people start thinking when there are a problem, but we need to have the inspiration and also to try to see the things like 3 steps before this can happen.
Progressive thinking.
Yes. Progressive.
Thank you everyone for your answers. Those were wonderful shares. And thank you again, Eliona, Viorica, and Doina. I hope to get to know you more. Now, before I hand the mic back, I also get to introduce my friend and colleague, Jason Daly from Canada. I'm really, really happy he can join us here today. And I'm hoping he's there in the background because I don't see his picture yet. So Jason is an investor in Canada. He works with a number of different business styles. And he has also helped me with the organization of an event called Get in the Ring. So Jason is someone that I am very, very happy to introduce to the wonderful people of Moldova and our global contributors. So welcome, Jason. I am now going to turn the microphone or recording back over to Alicia and Marina. So back to you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Welcome, Jason. And we're really happy that you have accepted to be part of our discussion. And we would like to, for us, better to understand what do you do, a really short introductory note about yourself. And then I will hand it over to Alona, who is going to moderate this panel.
Very well. Okay, I'll jump right in. My name is Jason Daly. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 13, and I continue on a path of discovery ever since. The short story, when I was 13, I used to organize sports games in front of my home, and then I would hold the convenience store for pops and popsicles and chocolate bars that I would sell to my friends in the neighborhood. And this is a passion that I was nurtured from my parents to continue and pursue. when I attended my university years. My university didn't provide entrepreneurship programming. So I co-founded a conference that explored entrepreneurship and technology and how it changed the fabric of our worlds going forward. And from there, I stayed involved with my university, and I'm on the alumni executive as a vice president. And I've used that role to help influence the university to create a hatch, an incubator for young entrepreneurs and startups to be creating the jobs for which when they graduate, they will operate. And that was my inspiration because I never had that in my university days. And I remain involved. Now I'm going to be leading a campaign, a seed campaign to raise funds to provide the initial monies needed as an investment that I will lead as the face, so to speak, of the fundraising, but it'll go to all alumni to contribute back to those students so that they can change the world. And that's my inspiration. Youth, when given the tools and the mentoring and the avenues, they will be able to change the world when they know they can fail and continue forward with the learnings. And they have the very comfortable environment of a university to get resources, to find their founders, to get the research and access mentors and now capital. So I'm living my dream. And I've been involved as an investor in the startup ecosystem 10 years now. I invest in those that believe in community give back, like Rebecca, that they have to see that the benefit is not just to their own or their pocketbook. The community and the individual people make you happiest when you're providing benefit to others and not just your own endeavor. And so I use the learnings and teachings of reciprocity, give for a win-win to all. And when I invest, I look for things that have positive impact and a community give back as much as possible. And so I've done some really cool things. If you want, should I share or just leave it there?
Yes, I will give the floor to Alona, who is going to be our moderator. And I think she's going to ask you some of the interesting questions as well.
Very good.
Alona, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jason, Olesya, and if we may have all the panelists in this discussion so that we can have a discussion. Yeah, but to make a generalization, we will talk now about money, a topic mentioned being very important and critical for the success of early stage startups, especially how we see this in Moldova. And we want to cover in this panel to speak about the investment realities in our country and how can we access investment in our country for SMEs, startups, but also tech startups. And we would like to then listen for Jason's best practices as an investor supporting his ecosystem, and maybe what's his favorite type of startups in which he likes to invest. But let's start with first, Lucia. You have 20 years of experience working with entrepreneurs who develop business in Moldova. How do you see the investment now after a lot of time passed and government passed and maybe things changed through better?
Alona, you challenge me because we can see through different perspectives, through the government perspective, through the entrepreneurs, and through the local public authorities or central authorities. Definitely the time change from day to day, and the last year and this year show different phases. Even we are looking through the mirror, we can see the day with the lights and the gray day. As I explained, our entrepreneurs, now we are talking about the entrepreneurs with the 10 years experience. And most of them are looking forward to move out of the regional area to the urban area or at least to Romania, because we have a lot of common things. If we are talking about the perspectives in Moldova, now government support startups through different programs, through startup for the youth, startup for the women, even business support for the women in business with the big companies and the companies who are providing local places, job places, and the turnover, digitalization program, ecologization or eco program, also different program and platform to be connected with the international community.
So you would say that there is a lot of support now for
from the
startups.
government part. They change their perspectives and face to support entrepreneurs. Of course, not for all, but for those who are confident and they would like to follow up their agenda, they are doing the best practices. And definitely for those who are looking for the innovation model, they are already in charge with the ecosystem, international ecosystem, and with the business angels system as well through the Europe community.
Okay,
so we are moving forward, and we are connected with the international best practice or models.
Okay, so if you would have to, if some young people from north of Moldova would listen now to your speech, and they have a business idea, what would you suggest them to do if they want to if they think, because you know in Moldova people, I hear say that they first they can't do a business because they don't have money. So what would you say to them?
So it's very important to Google it. First of all, first step, it's easy to Google it, and you'll see the programs that can help entrepreneurs with a good idea. We have 11 business incubators. We have more than 10 hubs specialized in different sector. We have a cluster. We have smart city, let's say Cahul and Ungen, with a lot of support from the local community and the international community through the donor support. Definitely they can move forward and can do first step with the financial support and the mentorship support, knowledge support, and experience. What do you need more?
Yes.
Just let us know and we can guide you. What is the next step?
Thank you, Lucia.
Next level.
Thank you for designing such a nice and positive image about Moldova and the opportunities for young entrepreneurs.
Alena, I just want to mention one thing that I consider it very important, because when I participated in the Italian ecosystem community to present our entrepreneurship community, and I just tell about Moldova, and they say, oh, can we move to Moldova? Because no such different variety of programs that government support in other countries.
Yes.
So it's a matter to start and to wish, and after that you can get to the next level.
Thank you very much, Lucia. That's very nice. We will come back to this if we have more time. Now that Jetta is late, we will pass to Jason, and then we'll come back to her. Jason, can you maybe tell us about what you do as an investor to support your entrepreneurship community? And yes, and then we'll build on that. Sorry, didn't you?
Sure. Every investor is looking for good quality deal flow. The investment ready founder and team And that can come from many sources. And you can take several approaches where you join an angel group. I understood that you're helping curate this. I support an angel group. I'm not joining one because I get enough deal flow being involved with the university, with young people. I'm involved with the Ottawa startup ecosystem, and I support a community group that does pitch events every other month. So I don't have a need to pay to see good deal flow. I'm seeing it and scouting it. And when I believe it's vetted and in a good place, I'll bring it to other angels to co-invest. They usually write bigger checks because I'm the one helping the founder figure out what it is they need to say is worthwhile, valuable, the value of the company. So I take an early stance. I work with the founders through the headache. And that's important because not every founder has all the answers. I've been a serial entrepreneur. I've helped launch dozens of businesses, but I only keep a few in my portfolio ongoing because the company is interesting. So I have an interest in a brewery. I have an interest previously in a restaurant, but I mostly spend my time in technology. And the reason is because the impact of software and technology can amplify benefits to consumers, benefits to the community, benefits to society overall. And that's leverage. So that's what I provide my founders: leverage of my knowledge, leverage of capital, and the community. And that's how I take my approach. My benefit, I get in earlier. I get a better price. My time and effort may not be paid for up front as a coach, but it comes in the end, because when I write my check, it's with another investor that they need, and they state the value. So I'm aligned with them. That's what I do in my approach. I call this venture builder, venture catalyst. And this is my unique approach.
Nice, very nice. How much time do you spend coaching a startup usually, and on average?
I will commit upwards to 2 years of engagement on a big technology company. The brewery, 6 to 9 months. I did a music festival. That was 6 months initially. So I'm usually doing a minimum of 6 months, and I could go up to 2 years when it's beneficial in the opportunity. I only put four companies onto my daily activity. 2 are my day-to-day. I'm grinding it with them. I'm rolling up my sleeves, getting the work done with them. But then there's 2 I'm preparing, giving them content, give them direction, and give them courses or material to help them process and be ready, so that when I'm finished in one project, I'm stepping into the next. It's not always blocked like easy. It's a lot of overlap. I have stressful moments. I have low moments. I'm currently looking for my next big file, my next big opportunity.
What should a startup look when they look for an investor? What qualities of the investor maybe look for?
Qualities. That's a great question, because it's asking the scenario that you don't have to accept any investor. Accept one that can see your vision. It can believe in your vision and offers to be engaged in it. Open doors and opportunity. Capital is one value, but the time and expertise is immeasurable. So look for them to engage in such a way. There's perhaps a majority of investors that do not want to be involved. They just give you the capital and hope, because they can step away from the capital, and if it loses, it loses. But I'm more involved. I would say, as a founder myself, I'm looking for someone to help get past the hurdles. So ask yourself, can this investor, help me move the company forward with not just the money, but their ideas and their network of relationships?
Okay, if somebody now is listening to this and they think, okay, good, nice, but you are in Canada. How can we connect with such people like Jason? If they maybe have the profile of ideas that you like, what would this profile be?
Well, I found when I connect with international founders, I've done it through Collision Conference, Web Summit, when they have the speed meeting, the speed networking. I love it. It's very efficient. 10 minutes to share your value proposition and get intrigued, and then book a follow-up meeting. being the fact that I do coaching, I will always do a courtesy first meeting just to understand the individual and the opportunity and the vision. So that's one way that I engage. I often like it to come through my community channels because I'm one person. I do have others that do this type of work that I do. I have to be very selective because I'm often committing my time and expertise without an upfront benefit or remuneration. Rebecca can speak to me, can speak about my heart I wear on my sleeve. I know the challenge of being an entrepreneur. I want to live it in with you. I find my skill is not in the idea, it's in the execution. So I want to know that someone can rightfully partner and execute. And so I answer your question. I will take a courtesy call with just about anyone that has an idea that comes recommended. So I defer to Rebecca, for instance. And to look on my social channels, I use this moniker Biz Daily, BIZDALEY. So that means it's easy to send a direct message through Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn.
Cool. Thank you very much. And of course, we will follow up with what you've said. I will move to Jetta now because we are short in time. Jetta, you are a founder, mom founder in Moldova in a very hard field of health tech, which is a very raw subject even now in Moldova, but you started a couple of years ago or even earlier. How do you see the investment reality in Moldova for startups? Maybe not like you, maybe not so difficult like you, but in general.
Well, honestly, I don't believe that back in 2016 when I started, well, what I'm doing now with Baby Moon, I even had options to choose from for fundraising when I was in Moldova. So the move to the Netherlands was a pretty decent opportunity. Not exactly what I was expecting, but it's really inspiring to see that as opposed to 2016, right now there's movement going on, and just last week there was that
health tech accelerator demo day.
Yeah, for the health tech accelerator, and they got prizes and they got money prizes and they got support from the university for clinical validation, which is huge because it took me 4+ years to figure out my possibilities for clinical validation. I'm not sure who would keep grinding this long. But yeah, okay. The entrepreneur who knows what they're doing and where they're going, they will. That's what I believe. So yeah, I think that's a great thing that the range of opportunities for startups and entrepreneurs in Moldova is getting broader and more varied. That's definitely a huge improvement that I saw happening over the last few years. And again, if there is improvement on this complicated front, obviously for more straightforward fields of activity, I'm sure there's even more, so that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. You've seen the alumni from this health tech demo day. What would you suggest them in order to find financing for their ideas?
Well, before fundraising, I think one big thing that also the health tech accelerator alumni, but a lot of other startups, and not only in Moldova, should be focusing on is defining their strategies. Because I think in my experience, this is one thing that may be lacking in a lot of pitches. When you're going to an investor and you're asking for money, is like, yeah, I want to take over the world, give me all the millions. And then when it comes to, okay, let's check what exactly you need and what you'll use it for. A lot of startups are oblivious about it. So you need a lot of research to put into defining clear strategies and roadmaps. And specifically for the health side of the startup world, they also need to think through very well their IP strategies, their, well, aside from the development and validation strategies. So I think that that's one of the bigger things that took me a while to realize, because when I just dipped into the startup world, it was very, I can't say vague, but it was like, okay, let's go for it. And then you go for it and then you stumble. And then once you hit the moment of slowing down, because if you don't, you crash, that's when you start actually addressing it more like a business than a project. With high potential and here's all the millions. But then the hype moment is also good because it gives you a good boost in the beginning. So yeah, it's going through stages. And then each startup is very different, and all their solutions and fundraising strategies should be tailored to their own business goals, I guess. And again, that comes back to defining strategy. What exactly do you want to do? And how much money do you need for that specific action, not for random action? And that's the most important thing, I think, with a lot of startups.
Investors want to know when they put capital in, how it will be efficiently utilized. It has to be very clear and understood, and they have to agree. So that's a great point you make there. Thank you.
Yeah, well, there is this one moment there, because I think that's actually the death valley of a lot of startups, because it takes you a while before you can actually define all of that. And you need to survive through that, through that period. And I think for me, that was the hardest time, because as a startup, because you couldn't see light at the end of the tunnel, because, okay, what am I doing? Where am I going? And you can't pay people, and you can't do things yourself. You need to focus. So yeah, that's a time period that's really hard as a startup. So yeah, it would be great to have also funding options that are not as strict in like demanding the startup to be very clear about what they're doing, because it's hard to know what you're doing for a while. And for example, like I had a moment where I had to build a prototype because I'm not an engineer, and I had to pay for that prototype, but I didn't have the money to pay for that prototype. That was a pretty bad mess I got myself into. I got myself out of it eventually, but after I built that prototype, I knew what I had to do as the next step and the next step, but without it, I couldn't have done it. So
yeah, I have a story I can relate to, Gita. One of my companies I work with now, I actually applied my social credit from being a community builder to ask them to delay the payment that was required to help orchestrate the prototype for a period of 3 to 4 months. And it wasn't conducive on me that I would be the one responsible for payment. It said, you know what I do? I have a belief system in this technology. You are the expertise. Give 4 months. I will put all the effort into capitalizing the company appropriately while you're building it. And I was fortunately able to meet that obligation by my social credit. They would not have believed me if I wasn't the one on the microphone leading like Rebecca does in our ecosystem to say, this is my belief. I stand up for what I believe in. So you can use sometimes your social credit for what you're doing right now. All right?
I've done that
you
so many times.
If it fails, you won't be able to go back there, of course. But
yeah.
I have one other story. I brought an international investor from Dubai. He lives in Canada now. He's doing permanent residence. And he was interested in investing in an entrepreneur from Beirut who is going to set up operations in Canada, but he only had a work permit. And there was a risk that was unnavigable. And I explained. He wanted to retain majority of the company naturally because it was his brainchild, baby of his project. but he's a capital risk. If he was to leave with the $2.5 million, there's no recourse for that investor to reclaim. So I have to coach now on how to put the collateral of the equipment up to also structure a share purchase program that automatically happens as the company grows so that he can reclaim his majority stake. And it's taking him a long time to get his head wrapped around the solution, because no investor will put that much money into somebody that could just leave the country and never see it again. And it wasn't seen until we had discovered and had a consultation with the lawyer. So I moved from potentially putting an investor and a entrepreneur together, but the nature is problematic. So you have to be very creative on how you structure deals. And that's the one thing that I definitely coach on, because I've seen it all, or not all of it, but many things.
Maybe I'd get in touch with you, Jason.
Thank you very
Welcome
much.
in, as you know.
Thank you everyone for these nice thoughts and positive thoughts about the opportunities in investments for startups. It's nice. Google Jason, find him, write him if you think you can work with him. Google Jetta, she will always find ways to mentor you. She has lots of experience in lots of startup life stages. And also Gia for sure would help with getting support through state organizations, and not only. Thank you everyone for your inputs in this. Yes, Vanessa, I will give you the mic now.
Yes, thank you so much, Elona. Thank you, everyone. It was a really interesting discussion, and I hope that we can talk more and more, but I think we are going to get tired to do it virtually, and I hope we can meet sometime in the future all around the table and actually discuss and connect better. And I really enjoyed the discussion. And thank you, Jason, for accepting to be part of this discussion. And we had lots of insight. Jetta, everyone, thank you so much, and really hope that we can also have our discussions one-to-one, and also continue our collaboration online and then together. And as a favor, if I could ask at the end, if everyone could turn their camera on, and then we could have a final picture, I would be very, very grateful. Verika, are you still with us? Can you turn the camera on at least? Okay. Here we go. Verika.
I am here, but I am in dark, so you'll not.
Yes, okay. So we take with your name only. Here we go. Thank you so much again. And it was a really great discussion. And definitely, Jason, I think you'll have 10 more friends on your LinkedIn at least. And then we can. Yes.
I appreciate the time today to get sharing some of my insights. And I've heard many, many good things from Rebecca, not just in the recent, when we go to conferences speaking about Moldova, and I hope to meet you one day in person too.
We love her, and it's mutual. Yes, thank you.
All right, good day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Good day, bye-bye. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.